Ivan Chen is going to take us through nanotechnology towards global sustainability. Take it away, Ivan.
Hey guys, so my presentation is on nanotechnology towards global sustainability. What I'm going to talk about is the potential of nanotechnology for new innovations and the economic prosperity that the innovations can hold. So what is nanotechnology? Nanotechnology is essentially a technology that operates at the first level organization of atoms and molecules for both living and anthropogenic systems. I guess a good definition is also nature at work, which is kind of simpler because it's at the first level of molecules. So the foundations of nanotechnology. I know Ross Lockwood talked about Richard Feynman a lot, so you guys probably know a lot of backgrounds on him. Richard Feynman, he gave his famous lecture, There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom. Richard Feynman is considered the father of nanotechnology. His lecture is pretty much the conceptual beginnings of the field of nanotechnology. And what he means by there's plenty of room at the bottom is very, very important. Richard Feynman says, I have estimated how many letters there are in the encyclopedia and assume that each of my 24 million books is as big as an encyclopedia volume, and have calculated then how many bits of information there are. For each bit, I allowed 100 atoms, and it turns out that all the information that man has carefully accumulated in all the books of the world can be written in the form of a cube material, 1/200th of an inch wide, which is the barest piece of dust that can be made out by human eye. So what he's generally saying is we can cram all the information in the world in a single speck of dust, in just a single speck of dust. We can cram the entire libraries around the world, around the country, different cultures, in just a single speck of dust. And that's what he means by there's plenty of room at the bottom. So why is there so much interest in nanotechnology? There's at least 3 reasons for the current interest. One of them is it's helping us fill up a major gap in our fundamental knowledge of matter. Another reason is the new applications of nanotechnology. There's new ways to do things with newer things, I guess. And also a third reason is it provides commercialization. It provides a new field of industry for companies to prototype and commercialize nano goods. So nanotechnology enables us to a world of new materials simply by reducing the size of existing materials, existing properties of materials to 0.1 to 100th of a nanometer. Nanotechnology has the potential to increase productivity efficiency in communication, energy, agriculture, and health sectors, and also lead to a more sustainable economy. So for the communication side of things, over the centuries, new innovations have moved communications from letters to phones, to text messages, and to top it off, the creation of the internet. It revolutionized the way people communicated and shared information with each other. I, for one, cannot imagine a world where we'd still be communicating with letters. I mean, imagine instead of sending out drunk texts, you send out drunk letters to each other. So the internet allows users to communicate simultaneously with multiple users within seconds. But with new nanotechnology, it's possible to even go beyond that, to communicate even more efficiently, How we can do that is with graphene. Graphene is the strongest material in the world right now. Graphene is made out of a single layer of carbon atoms, which are bonded together in a hexagon pattern, and is 1 million times thinner than paper, making graphene two-dimensional. So you can't really see it, sideways. It's just flat. Graphene has a lot of unusual characteristics. One of them being obviously the strongest material in the world, but it's also superconductive. It moves electrons 200 times faster than silicon. And it's also very flexible, so you can twist pole without breaking it. Also transparent. So with research and development in regards to graphene, it's concluded that graphene could boost internet speeds, serve as touch-sensitive coating on your phones, iPhones, Androids, and extend the lives of computers by replacing silicon in semiconductors and transistor chips. So now we move on to nanotechnology for energy. So right now in the world, we're using 3 energy sources. We're using fossil fuels, which is coal, natural gas, and oil. The problem with fossil fuels is when we burn them for energy, they release a lot of carbon dioxide, which creates a greenhouse effect and, more well-known, global warming. The other source of energy we currently use is nuclear energy. The problem with nuclear energy is the wastes it produces is highly toxic, and they don't degrade or reach a safe radioactive level for years, for 10,000s of years. But the cleanest fuel we use currently is renewable energy, such as dams, windmills, and solar panels. The problem with current renewable energy is it's not reliable. During periods of where there's no wind or there's no sun, we don't have energy. It can't generate energy. And with dams, they create a lot of environmental damages to the surrounding, like it increases the risk of flooding in certain areas where a dam is placed. So all the sources of energy I discussed so far, they all have some form of environmental drawback, but there's ways that nanotechnology can contribute to the greening of energy, of the economy. One of those ways is nanoparticles can hold more lithium than traditional batteries. So what that means is nano batteries are more efficient. They can store a higher energy charge, allowing electric vehicles in the future to be more cost competitive compared to, gas vehicles. And also nanosolar. Nanosolar is the idea of using nanomaterials to gather solar energy. Right now, scientists are trying to achieve a revolution in solar energy with graphene. So like I discussed before, graphene is hundreds of times is thinner than paper, and it's way more conductive than silicone. So scientists are looking into replacing the silicone transistors the silicone semiconductors in solar panels with graphene, which are cheaper, more efficient, and flexible. In the future, solar energy may actually become the cheapest form of energy available. Future scenarios with nanotechnology include, anything that has a surface basically, like clothing. You can attach nanoparticles to it to gather energy. Future people might be able to add nano agents to paint, to spray paint cars, or the surface coating of a car to gather nano energy. And in an extreme case, we might be able to reach a solar farm. So what a solar farm is we might be able to, in the future, roll out like a huge sheet of nano solar panels into the desert, and it could potentially fuel all the energy needs of humans with only costing us 0.1% of the Earth's surface. So agriculture and food, I mean, people can't live without food. Agriculture and food production is honestly the most vital part of human civilization. I mean, with continuous breakthroughs in agriculture, such as the plow, it's allowed the global population to grow from 1 billion in the 18th century to 7 billion in 2012. The global population right now is growing at a rate of 81 million a year annually, which is giving rise to the global food crisis. The global food crisis is the continuous environmental degradation of agricultural landscapes, the rising food prices, and the fact that a seventh of the world's population is considered food insecure. But the global food crisis is also our unsustainable dependence on current agriculture food landscapes, on non-renewable energy sources, on our non-sustainable use of water, soil, and other resources. So how can nanotechnology help? A key development in nanotechnology right now is nanoseeds. So what nanoseeds are is they're basically encapsulated pesticides in a seed, and I guess the farmer just plants it on the ground and then it will grow, and when it's needed, the pesticide will remain innate, and when it's needed, it will come out, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, nano seeds allow a greater control, I guess, over the circumstance of pesticides that are applied by remaining innate, if that makes more sense. They reduce the use of chemicals, pollution in agriculture environments. And then another development is nanoprocessed foods. Nanoprocessed foods is adding nano food additives in in making the food. So what it accomplishes is it increases the shelf life, heat tolerance, and accelerate the speed that processed foods are made, such as sausage. And on the extreme end, it kind of allows it will allow the consumer to pick the flavor of the food after purchase, which is still over my head, but that's a future possibility that research and development is looking into, using nano food additives to change the flavor based on, I guess, consumer profiles. And also smart packaging. So what smart packaging is smart packaging uses a nanofilm on their packaging, and when the food inside starts rotting, it'll change color. It'll warn you when the food's starting to rot and when you should throw it out. A key development in nanotechnology right now is health. Health is the most valuable commodity that we as human beings can have. Health enables us to all of our other human activities. Nanotechnology offers the potential to take health to a new level by enabling us to read biomarkers in our blood to detect disease. And once a disease is identified, nanoparticles can be introduced to the body to move to target sites and behave like white blood cells, treating the disease. Pharmaceuticals is a major area of contribution of nanotechnology because vaccines can be taken orally now, which eliminates the use of needles and increases compliance. But most importantly, because vaccines can be taken orally, it will eliminate the requirement of a trained personnel to be with them at all times, severely reducing costs to the hospital. And the use of nanoagents in vaccines also improve the strength of vaccines, which will allow lower dosages and for the health system to expand or to extend the quantity of available vaccine. So who ultimately benefits from nanotechnology? I mean, the question rises because a lack of clean water and other resources in small villages around the world isn't because they can't, they simply don't have the technology or the technology isn't available. It's because it's out of their financial reach or they simply don't have the knowledge to operate it. This implies that the benefits of nanotechnology will be shared unequally, and it may actually promote the same inequality in access of natural resources and further segregate the poor. And the reason I brought that up is because of intellectual property and patents. Nanotechnology knowledge is currently locked away in property systems, which are called patents, making it accessible to the public. This means that if an alternative way to create an existing nanotechnology is discovered, even though it's more efficient, they are not legally allowed to use it or to produce it. So the use of patent is clearly against the best interests of the poor because it locks valuable knowledge away and puts it in the arms of wealthy corporations for the purpose of profit generation. So to answer the question, nanotechnology will ultimately benefit the people that can produce and use it. So the global nano race. The global nano race, when new technologies hold the potential to radically change and improve global economies, global health, and even human social structures, the question of which country or corporation will acquire it first comes to mind. That is the global nano race, the race towards the holy grail of nanotechnologies. The start of the global nano race was marked by the National Nanotechnology Institute in the States, in the United States of America, in 2001. They have led the world in nanotechnology research programs and are currently leading. But however, funding for nanoscience was already established in many regions of the world by this time, with Europe already being in strong nanomaterials by the mid-1980s. Up to now, many other countries in Europe have dedicated considerable amounts of money to nanotechnology and research programs. From the charts, we see that the United States holds the largest number of scientific publications in nanoscience. And from figure 6 above, we see that they also have the largest funding. So by that regards, the United States right now is leading the world in the global nano race. What about less developed countries? At first glance, it kind of seems that I only talked about the developed countries, but what about the underdogs? I mean, are they able to catch up to the big dogs to take advantage of the opportunity that nanotechnology holds? Currently, there are three really serious, less developed countries engaged in this window of opportunity. They are China, Brazil, and India. And they are the three largest countries in the developing world today by no chance. Because in an industry where major funds are needed to get results, only the largest countries can take advantage of these windows of opportunity, merely because of the massive funding and the human capital needed. So there are two strategies in nanotechnology for the LCDs to catch up to. One of them is cluster and alliance. What cluster and alliance means is merely just clustering and alliancing all the nano institutions in one area. And another strategy is early patenting areas of interest to attract foreign venture capitalists. And the graph below, or the figure right here, shows that China is in the lead in bio-nanotechnology currently. Oh, one last thing. I should have probably mentioned this, but the two strategies I discussed can't be used for bio-nanotechnology because only human results lead to, only human health offers results or returns on investment, whereas with nanotechnology, you can use strategies to develop new innovations. So education in North America. So the massive funding from North America in the field of nanotechnology has created more job opportunities for research and development. The country will critically need more and more researchers in the future to uphold the lead North Americans have in the global nano race. However, the job openings in the nano sectors might not be filled because students are just not as interested in math and science anymore. I mean, this could be due to a number of reasons. It could be because of our reliance on technology today. I mean, I, for one, would rather punch some numbers in a calculator or Google it rather than doing all the steps and getting the same results. I mean, it's just faster and more efficient. The performance of American students on high-profile international tests and measurements speak for themselves and shows the weakness of the American education system, because where it scores well under high flyers such as Japan and Singapore, America really needs to step up their game to preserve their brain power so high-paying jobs doesn't go overseas to places like India and China. Like Barack Obama said, it's undeniable fact that countries who out-educate us today are going to out-compete us tomorrow. If we're serious about building an economy that lasts, an economy in which hard work pays off with the opportunity for solid middle-class jobs, we gotta get serious about education. So it's fun and all that nanotechnology holds the potential to really change the world, to really change the world towards global sustainability, to economic prosperity. But the fact is, we as human beings, we're all kind of greedy and we like our things. That's why we come up with patents to protect our intellectual property. And because of those patents, they really restrict the speed that we reach the holy grail of nanotechnology, because we're not allowed to work together. So the person that wins, the country that wins, or the corporation that wins the global nano race will ultimately be the people that be the corporation or nation that have the most patents and also the most educated workforce behind those patents to innovate, to exploit the research by building new innovations with it. Yeah, thanks.
So you mentioned how America's science and math education is sort of going into the gutter at this point. Do you possibly know? Can you possibly suggest any reasons for why this is happening? I mean, they do have a lot of public institutions that are putting world-class research out there. Why do you think their younger generation might be falling behind in science and math?
Well, the people that are putting up the research right now are part of the baby boomers, an age where where kids in middle school or elementary school didn't have iPads, didn't have phones, didn't have the necessary technology to make life so easy and convenient. They were from an age where hard work pays off, and where you simply didn't have an ulterior or a different route other than hard work, where if you wanted to solve a problem, you have to do it yourself. Like today's generation, I mean, just based off my friends from my Math 114 class in my first year, we all used Wolfram Alpha instead of actually doing the work, instead of learning the steps. We rather save time by punching numbers in and getting the result than actually learning it. Because, I mean, time is money, right? Time is the biggest commodity we have in the world. Time is the only thing we can't buy.
So this is an interesting area in which, no matter how you look at it, there's a lot of fiction. Everybody who talks about nanotech, actually, you're the sole exception, shows pictures of things that don't really exist yet. And this resistance to nanotech is related also to some of the links between nanotech and pseudoscience, things that don't work yet, like, cryonics, freezing people to hope that when you thaw them out again, you'll be able to fix what was wrong with them and bring them back to life. That is not formally related to cryonics, but the people proposing it say the way it's going to work is that nanotech will fix all these cells, and so that's their link. So I think it's an odd sort of area. It's not just the laziness of young people. There are a bunch of other things that I think lead to the kind of inhibitory factors here.
Hi. You talked about the disparity between the less developed countries and the more developed. Nanotech is at a very, like an infant stage right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential for it. How well do you think it'll be embraced by the less developed countries?
Well, to be honest, it's in the beginning phases, and when technology is in the beginning phases of its, birth, only the wealthiest and the countries with the most human capital to offer, the most educated human capital to offer, can take part of it. The less developed countries, without the massive funding and without the human capital, will simply miss it, because the world when they discover something new, when they publish something, they always patent it. They always trademark it. They always kind of copyright it in a way, so other people can't use it. It's the same idea as plagiarism. I came up with it first. You can't use it.
To a certain extent, don't you agree that the patent system enhances the innovative capacity of our generation? Because there's always the incentive that once you do patent something, you will get a return on it.
For sure there is, but the bigger picture towards singularity, it's, I mean, if we patent everything and we move on to the bigger picture of singularity, it's going to move way slower than if we were all to work together. I mean, at this rate, it's basically, we're trying to find out which nation or country or corporation is going to reach that holy grail first. Whereas if we were to share it, it'd be everybody would reach it at the same time. But that's not really not going to happen, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the idea that Jonas Salk didn't, patent what he found, it's really interesting. There are very few other examples of really valuable science where people have said, no, I think I'll just let people have this. So I wonder what Jonas Salk would think about these things.
Well, Jonas Salk would be a great transition to my question. I know, Ivan, you're from an economics background, so I'm just wondering if you have any ideas of how to sort of encourage innovation with a different type of, per se, let's say, some intrinsic motivation other than patents. Do you see a solution out of the patent system from an economics perspective?
Could you repeat that, please?
So pretty much, the question is, do you see alternatives to patent systems? Like, do you think there are ways to intrinsically motivate innovation, especially in the field like in nanotech? I'm just wondering, I'm just curious because you're from an economics background, so you might understand like, the demand system much better.
There's always ways. I mean, us as humans, we're never satisfied with the status quo. We'll always strive to be something more. I mean, to be a healthy human being, you need a goal in life. You're never satisfied with the status quo. You always wanna work towards something or strive towards something. And I believe in the future that there are people that will solve that problem.
So we need to move on. Eric is up next. Thank you very much, Ivan.